Hello, hello. So, welcome to another creative chat. And today I have Kimberly with me, and she is a illustrator and a designer. And yeah, I'm so happy that you are here, Kimberly.
I know. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much.
Nervous, but happy.
So, could you tell me a little bit more about what you do?
And we were just talking about it. I do a lot of stuff because I think my biggest thing is that I love doing everything. Like just yeah, in the form of like when you talk about a creative, like that's what I am at heart. So I just love making things. And so for now, what I've been focusing on in business has been illustration, branding design, and web design. And so that's what I've been focusing on recently. I'm trying to lean in, or I'm starting to lean in a lot more into my illustration work because that's the work that I really, really enjoy.
Cool. So, could you tell me a little bit more about what you mean with illustration work? Because I'm really interested in
Yeah,
hearing more about that.
definitely. So, what's funny about my background is that I went to school for animation. So, when I was 5 years old, um, I'm from Costa Rica, and I remember my father coming back from the States, and he brought me a little Viewmaster with slides from Sleeping Beauty, the movie Sleeping Beauty. And I would stare into those forever. And if anybody knows, that specific movie was based on the illustrations of Ivan Earl, and his stuff is beautiful. And I mean, I didn't know it. I was 5 years old, but it just did something to me. And I remember telling my dad, I'm going to be an animator because of that movie, because of those illustrations. And so, of course, I didn't know that it was an illustrator. I didn't know that that's what was influencing me. So I went to school. I did become an animator. I worked in the animation scene in New York for, I don't know, a couple of years, but I didn't know that animation in New York is very much like being an actor. So when there is, work, you work on the TV show or the movie or whatever you're doing. Once it's over, you're done and you got to go find work again. And that was super stressful. So I always I fell into web and graphic design because of that, because I ended up having to put a portfolio together for myself. So that's how I fell into web and graphic design. I didn't really study graphic design or anything like that. But with all the freelance work and everything, I continued to go into illustration and animation. I did traditional animation, which is, it means every frame that you see in the screen has to be drawn. I didn't do computer animation. So I do a ton of drawing. And I still do that now. Like I'm not animating as much, but I draw all the time. Yeah. So
Wow. I remember seeing all those like clips of people like doing a simple drawing and then doing it like on 100 papers and I would be like,
yeah, and flipping them.
wow, yeah, exactly. And I'm flipping, and that's like a teensy tiny part of like a huge illustration or animation. So
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how much work that is and how difficult that is. I'm really bad at drawing and stuff, so for me that's an extra. There's a lot I'm good at when it comes to creativity. Drawing, not my strong suit. I will just put like stick figures. I will stay with that. That's where I'm comfortable at.
And that's where I'm trying to, because and since we were chatting before, I was telling you that I'm leaning into more of my illustration, because I just, that's what makes me happy. Like as I have been, as you get older and you have more time because your kids get older and they're not on top of you all the time, you're able to like actually sit and say, okay, what do I enjoy? And I thought it was branding at first, but as I've gotten older, I'm like, you know what I really, really like to do is to just, illustrate and make things. And so I, was it over the holiday break, I went into a drive that I have. I have so many illustrations. just in my drive. And I was like, I need to put these out there. And like now SVGs, because of Canva, they're becoming really popular. And I'm like, I need to just put these out there for people. Like you just said, you're like, you love being creative, but you can't draw. I'm like, I love drawing, and here you go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, here's my stuff, go make stuff with it. So I think that's what I want to do next. Like, I'm working on an SVG shop where I can put collections of illustrations up for people to start making their own things. Like, I fell into the digital planning world, and it is amazing. Like, what people do, it is so cool. The digital stickers and the planners. I was like, what? I've never been able to do planning, but ever since I downloaded GoodNotes, I'm in there all the time, just writing and doodling and whatever. I love it.
And I agree. Like, there's so much stuff that's being made from other stuff. But if you like, there's so many people who want to do illustrations, but they can't, but they need it for something that they're doing.
Right.
Then if you have someone who does great illustrations, it's lovely to combine that and to make it your own. And with SVGs, there's the other side of the Cricut and silhouettes and all the other cutting machines that you can go as well, like people making physical products with SVGs.
Exactly. And what's funny is because I used to always be like, oh, because people would tell me, oh, you could sell that art, and I was always like hoarding it because I was like, oh, I'm going to do something with it, one day, one day, one day. And like now I have a drive full of stuff. And I was like, that I probably missed out on a lot of opportunities because as I sit and draw, like I'll be like in a fury. Yesterday, I was doing it. I was like drawing for like 2 or 3 hours, just like illustrating stuff. That takes a lot of time to illustrate, to come up with the colors, whatever collection you put together. Then there's more time in the creation process. What are you going to make with this? It's going to be a t-shirt, a mug, stickers, whatever. There's not enough hours in the day for me to do all that stuff with all the collections that I have. So I think I had a lot of missed opportunities where I could have put those out there and they could have turned into products, and I could have seen my illustrations out in the world. And I think I'm ready to just embrace that.
And I think that's the most important part. I think there's always things we miss, but then there's a reason for that. Like, it wasn't right at that time for whatever reason. Right. And you, like right now, thinking more about the illustration side of it, seeing what can be done with all the illustrations. I think sometimes you just need to, like, you don't always need to be a trailblazer. That's a really hard word to say.
Yeah.
Trailblazer. But you don't always need to be that to be successful at what you're doing. And maybe just seeing what other people were doing gave you the permission to say, okay, I can do that too. Like, I have this, like, having a full drive of illustrations. Oh my, like, I would wish I would have that. Like, that's so amazing to be able to just say, okay, like, you could just say, okay, I'm not even going to draw anything right now, which I know that you will, but you could just
it's
say,
an impossibility. Yeah.
I'm just going to put all of this out for the next year, and you would probably be just doing that.
That's exactly what I'm doing. So I'm putting together like that shop that I told you, the SVG shop. And what I want to do is I want to put it out as like a mini membership where I'll do like a monthly drop. But I was like, oh, I kind of want to have 6 months of content. Let me see if I have 6 months of content. Are you crazy? I have a ton. Like, I was like looking at everything I have. And it's not even just, there's stuff where it was like a little idea and then that sparks another thing. And then it turns into a whole other creation because, that's how I think. And so, but I can't stop myself because even yesterday I was working and I'm working on getting these collections together and, rendering out the SVGs and the whole nine. And as I'm doing that, I'm like, oh, I have an idea for something else. So I had to stop and I was sketching. So it's like, but it's one of those things where I'm like, you know what? I kind of like that, because then not having the pressure of being like, I have to make these into something. It's kind of fun to be like, I'm just having fun and illustrating, and then putting these into a shop where somebody else is going to love them and turn them into something else, takes that pressure off of me and makes it so that I can make more and more and more and more. Because I've been talking to Allie, and she's like, I can't wait for this, because she wants to grab them and make stuff. So it's just a nice, like, symbiotic relationship that you can end up having. And I think you're right also, sorry,
That's okay.
about it being the right time versus, because like years ago when I was like being told to do this, Canva couldn't, process SVG files or anything. It would have been very difficult to do what I'm doing now. Like I couldn't give just anybody an SVG file. They wouldn't be able to do anything with it. But now you can.
Exactly. Then it would have just been a JPEG or a PNG, and that would have been it.
Right.
And it would have been a lot harder to really use to its full potential.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, like, hearing that, I don't think you have 6 months worth. I think you more have 16 months worth, maybe even
Yes,
60.
Yeah. And I posted in a group, and I gave 2 samples. I was like, okay, so because I want to make sure that I'm giving people the value, right? So I'm like, would you be happy with this or with this? So both of them, they said they're okay. Because I was like, should I do illustrations and patterns or just a bunch of illustrations? And they're like really happy with that. And they're like, but we like the illustrations and the matching patterns. So I'm like, in that case, I can take this other one and split it into 2 collections. So now things that I was thinking, oh, that's 1 month, might be turning into 2 and 3 months. So, I mean, I think I might have a year for sure set up.
And you were saying about like you getting distracted with new ideas to draw. I think that's perfectly fine. Like as long as at some point because I know the feeling. Like right now I think I have 6 projects I'm working on, probably even more for myself. And I'm really, really trying to focus on one, but I just can't. But what I'm doing is, if I'm having good ideas for the one of the other ones, I give myself permission to do it for a little bit, but then I need to go back, because otherwise that other idea is going to spark a new idea, and then I'm moving further and further away from the thing I was actually working on. So I need to sometimes drag myself back by my hairs to say, okay, it's awesome that you have creativity, but use it for the thing that you were actually working on. Because I will be launching a shop with Elementor templates soon. And so I need to get that finished, because it's like I have a few templates done, but I can't launch it until I've done all the other elements. So, I need to like give myself permission to get creative, because I think I already drew out 5 or 6 more template IDs. And I keep like, when you were talking, I just had a new idea. So I had to write it down. But like I could keep creating new templates, but that doesn't really work if I'm not putting them out. So
even if you're not putting them out, exactly, which is what happened to me. That's why I have a whole drive full of illustrations. So
I actually, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago, I worked with a designer. It was back in the day when I didn't feel like I was a designer yet. So I felt like I was a web developer. So I was good at the tech, but not as great at the graphics. I realized now that's nonsense. But back then I wasn't like too sure of that side of myself. And together we made 3, I think it was 3 templates. They've never seen the daylight. Like they've never been out. So I'm now finally building them. And they're actually not even the first that I'm going to launch, because I just wanted to create new stuff. But like, I know at some point these need to be released as well, because they've been sitting here finished, ready for 4 or 5 years, and no one's been able to use them.
Just
like,
waiting.
How sad is that?
Yeah, I know, because you think of your little creations as like little babies, and they're just waiting. They're like growing up, and they're like, what's going on? Where, put me out in there. I like that. That's what happened to me yesterday, because I don't, it's also weird. Like, that's how I feel when you were saying, you have to give yourself permission to have that creative moment, because like sometimes I feel like you have to let it be like you kind of have to let it guide you a little bit, because I'm a huge believer in like everything starts aligning and happening for reasons. And I don't know, yesterday I was like, I don't know why I wanted to sketch, and so I started doing it, and this beautiful thing came out. I'm like obsessed with these little illustrations now, and I'm like, I didn't know that was inside of me at that moment. And it just came out, and I loved it. And now I'm like, I can't wait to make patterns with it and this and that, whatever. So I'm doing the same thing that you're doing. Like I started using ClickUp because I'm planning a summit in April, a creative summit actually. So I have the tasks for the summit in ClickUp. So like I've been doing this, and I go far off a little bit to this side, but then I come back and I'm like, okay, what's the next task? So there's sort of like, railroad that I'm going on, like, and I'm putting each piece, it's there. Each task is there for me to complete, and it has deadlines. So I know I need to hit those. I'm really good with deadlines, even though I'm like spazzy. I'm good with deadlines. When I see them, I'm like, I have to finish by that deadline. But it gives me, when I see, okay, the next deadline is January 30th and we're on the 25th, I'm like, okay, I have 5 days. Like I can still, I'll go over here and have a little bit of fun and then come back, like you said.
Yeah.
But, I feel like that's what creative energy is like. It's very,
and I
sporadic.
think that's really important as well. So I had a brain fart the other day, and suddenly my mind said bright boho, which like don't really feel like they go together, but somehow my mind said those two words together and said like, you need to do something with that. And I sketched out, I think in 15 minutes, like a template with the idea of it being bright, but like boho like. And it just makes total sense when I saw it. But
it makes sense to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm on the same wavelength. That makes sense.
Because most of the time, like boho is like soft colors or a bit burgundy, olive green, like those kind of colors. I was like bright colors. That would be so much fun.
Right.
So I think if you have a brain fart like that, you need to go with it, because if
follow
you don't, it goes away.
Yeah, it's a little spark. It's like it's a little, I don't know. When I think of that, I think of like you're maybe like in the dark, sort of, and then you see this little light and it's like flitting around. You got to follow it and see where it takes you, grab it or whatever. And that's when, like yesterday, when that just came out, I was so happy. Like, and it actually, I think for me, that stuff, I don't know if it does for you. I think it does probably, because it has to be a creative thing. It makes you happy, like literally happy. I went to bed in such a good mood, and I knew in the morning when I was going to wake up, I was going to look at those again, and I was going to get to sit down and work on them. And I'm like itching to work on them again. So like, it's one of those things that it lasts a little while, and it's such a good, I don't know, it's such a good feeling. You and you're nodding, so I know you understand that.
Definitely. No, I think it's, so I've been focusing, it's January right now, and I'm focusing most of this month doing the templates and doing stuff around templates, because I need to make images and all the things. And just being able, like, my computer's always on. I put it on sleep, but I don't.
Yeah, no.
And I have all my tabs open with the templates I'm working on, or that are actually finished. And every time I just see them, even the ones that are finished and I don't need to work on them, and like it makes me happy just seeing that I created that over the last few weeks. And I'm having all these ideas, and I'm having trouble keeping up with my own ideas, because I think I can't keep up. Like I have so many ideas right now.
I know.
I'm just giving myself permission to think, okay, they'll come back, or others will come, or and I'm writing them down as much as I can, or drawing them. I have a big notebook that I got from Selena, and I have an interview with her as well, because she told me, like, you need to draw more, and you need to, even though you're not great with drawing, it's not about the drawing, but you need to put everything that's in your head literally on paper, instead of trying to put it into words, because sometimes it's really hard to put something in words, but it's in your head. Just put it down like directly. So
Yes.
drawing it out helps so much, and all the designs, and sometimes it's just a few elements, or sometimes it's like the whole, like it's more the page layout, I want to say. But it gives me enough inspiration to know where, or to remember where I want to go. It's not even to know where I want to go, it's to remember where I wanted to go with that template.
Yeah. And I agree. Obviously, like I illustrate, but like that's, and I was gonna show you my my planner, because as I'm planning, let me show you one of the pages, because I think um I don't know about this one. I do a lot of this kind of stuff where I'm like, oh, you can't see it.
No, we will put in a screenshot
No.
afterwards.
Yeah. um I do a lot of, I need to have that. I need to sketch and put, you know what I mean? Like, and I draw, sometimes, I don't know, you just can't explain it. I mean, you probably can explain it in words for people who are better with words, but like when it's coming out so fast, you have to like draw it and like do, whatever. So I totally understand that. That energy is like that, really, like, I don't know. I love being in that state when you're channeling something, it's coming out, like it's a great time.
And I think, so next interview is about not having motivation at some point, and then giving yourself the space and the quiet to become creative again.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have like the inspiration that both of us have right now, like you never need to do anything. Let's keep that clear. But like you want to use that energy and that flow that you're in to get things going, because there's always going to be another lull when it comes to the creativity. That's just how creativity flows. It's never
Right.
It's not just one high. It's an up and down and up, and that's fine, as long as then you use it when it's there, and you're happy to use it when it's there.
And I think what you were saying, like the fact that you do that too, that you keep your tabs open, and that, I have my stuff to like come back to, when you're not feeling creative, going back to the stuff that you did do, because I feel like when you're creating, you're never finished. Like there's always something that can continue to come out from there. And so when you can go back to your stuff, then it starts to spark again. And that's why you need that little spark again that you need to follow. And you just gave me another idea, because the summit that I'm putting together in April is called Creative Spark. And I was just thinking of, talking about that spark. And I hadn't realized that I was talking about it, and I named this, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, oh, duh, that's why I named it, because it is a spark. So yeah, like I feel like that's all you need, that little spark again, to remind yourself, oh yeah, that's right. And then you get back into that groove.
Yeah, and you were saying about good notes earlier. I think that's one of the things that I struggle with. Like I am great at putting things down, but it's not in one place. So I just found out I had like 3 different pages in Notion that kind of all talked about creative products and mostly website templates. And I was like, that doesn't really work, because then one of the pages might have some of the ideas, and one page might have a few of the, like I need to keep that together to be able to get that spark again when I need it, because I can have all these extra ideas, but if I can't find them when I'm stuck, then they're not going to help me. So I think even if you're creative and you have a hard time with putting the things down on paper, or like finding the words, find a way to systemize it enough, because it doesn't need to be perfect, but that if you need a spark, you can find it, and you have something to go off, because I really need to combine those 3 pages into one.
Right. And I mean, that's the idea of a sketchbook, right? Like in high school, like I carried around a sketchbook with me all the time, in high school and college. And I always had a sketchbook, and the sketchbook wasn't just for me to draw. It was for everything. Like I put notes in there, I put grocery lists, and then made them look really pretty. And, it was just whatever I needed to have in front of me. That was it. And I had never been able to do that again, because, with once you have kids, like it makes it really like hard to like get back to yourself. But like now that my kids are older, I found GoodNotes, and what I love about it is that you can have different notebooks for all this stuff. So like now, like that's like my idea directory or something. And so I'm able to go in there and look at, you know, I'm planning stuff for the summit, I'm planning stuff, and there's a regular to-do one. And so even with, I mean, I guess for me, the other thing is I have a directory also in my illustration. So all those files, I draw a lot in Fresco, Adobe Fresco. So I can go in there and just look at all the files that I'm on. As long as you have some place where you have all your stuff together and you can like look at it, usually it really helps to see everything in one place, because then you start seeing the breadth of everything that you're making, and that gets you excited too, because you're like, wow, this is a lot, this is great, you know. So I think that's where I am at too with like the idea for this membership, because it got me excited, being like, there is so much here. It's exciting because half the work is done, you know what I mean? It's all there.
I'm interested, will you also be selling them separately or only in the membership?
No, I was originally going to do just the membership, but I was able to find a plugin, because I'm doing it in WordPress. And I was able to find a plugin that allows me to sell them separately and also an all access pass. So if you want everything, you can just grab that. Or because I wasn't sure, I was like, am I complicating this? But after asking a lot of people, they were like, they like the idea of having a monthly drop and then also having an all access pass. And that's in addition to the shop where you can buy individual files. So I think like there's a way for you to grab it however you want. You can test it out and see if you like them, whatever, you know. So yeah, and it's not extra work for me, I think.
And that's important too. Like it's good to be able to deliver it in multiple ways, but it shouldn't put you into more work. Yeah,
exactly. Because that's where you stay stuck, where you're like, I'm not going to do that now. I'll figure it out, whatever. And then you just stay and you don't do anything.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then it stays in a half done stage for however long. Yeah.
Yeah. Years.
Years, probably. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kimberly. It was so much fun talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I love talking about this with you.
Me too. And I think I think it's so interesting to talk about illustrations, because it's something I don't know that much about at first. I think I don't know that much about it, but it's all creativity. And so it all flows together, and we all have the same fun and the same issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching this creative chat with Kimberly. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more creative chats like this, watch this playlist over here. I have all the creative chats that I've done so far in that playlist. I do one of these creative chats every 3 weeks. And the other weeks, I make videos about strategy and tech for the creative entrepreneur, so you can have more fun, more cake, and more customers. That sounds like something you would enjoy. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next week.